CSS allows you to also specify how the content of an element should appear on a web page. You can specify a specific background for the page. You can also specify specific colors of all your paragraphs. The certain typeface they should have. Typeface is also what we call font, okay, or font face. You can also decide to give certain headings a particular look. That's why we say in our first bullet point that it allows you to create rules that specify how the content of an element should appear. When you are done, you should also understand that in writing CSS rule, what you should be interested in is the different properties that are available for you to use on certain elements. Understanding how CSS works is also to imagine that there is an invisible box around each element. So we told you in the first bullet point that it allows you to specify the content of an element. So you can decide to pick headings. You should assume that there is a box that is surrounding all your headings or all your paragraphs or all your images. That is why the third bullet point says, imagine there is an invisible box, a box around each of the elements but you cannot see. Okay, so you can decide to give a straight rule for all your paragraphs, straight rule for all your headings, straight rule for all your images, or the entire body of the web page as a whole. So you are going to imagine that there is an invisible box around each of the elements, so that when you are creating rules for them, you create rules for them in block. Now, just like we do in HTML, in CSS too, we have block and inline elements. That's why we are trying to connect the HTML to our CSS. We explained in HTML that block elements start on a new line. So examples include our divs, our headings, our paragraphs, our list. These are called block level elements because when you apply them in your code, it starts on a new line. The content between them starts on a new line. Whilst inline elements flow within the text and do not start on a new line. Examples of inline elements include the bold, the italic, the image, the emphasis, and then the span. CSS also allows you to create rules that control the way each individual invisible box is presented. Okay, it allows you to create rules that control how individual box must be presented. I spoke about selectors and I also spoke about declaration, which is the property. CSS also associates some rules with HTML elements, and these rules show the content of specified elements and how they must be displayed. Every CSS rule has two main parts, which is a selector and a declaration. The selector is most likely to be the HTML element, while the declaration has to do with the property you want to associate with that particular selector. So in this example, as you see it here, the P is our selector, whilst the one in the curly bracket, font family Arial, is the declaration. Okay, now the explanation of this particular CSS rule, you see, as you see it here, means it is indicating that all the paragraph elements should be shown in Arial typeface. So we are giving all our paragraphs a particular typeface or a particular font face, which is Arial. We are saying this Arial should apply to all our paragraphs within the page. That's exactly what this rule means. Now, what are selectors and declarations? Selectors indicate which elements the rule applies to. The same rule can apply to more than one element. We will go into that and explain how to choose specific selectors and then apply specific declarations to them. And when we say declaration, declarations also indicate how the element referred to in the selector should be styled. So if you look at our previous examples, the selector is the P, okay, this paragraph here, whilst our declaration is the one in the curly bracket. CSS declaration sit inside curly bracket, and each is made up of two parts, a property and a value. Let me go back to explain using this code. Now the property is font family, okay, and there's a column just at the end. This is what the property, and this is the value of the property, okay, the value that is being given to this property, and it should sit in a curly bracket. So CSS declaration or properties and values, if you check this particular one, I'm sure by now you are able to interpret it. The interpretations are the ones in yellow. So H1, H2 and H3, which means heading 1, heading 2, and then the third level heading should be what? Should have a property of what? Font family and a value of Arial. Whilst another what? Property is color. It should be in red. This rule indicates that all H1 to H3 elements should be shown in Arial and in red color. I'll give an example where I have used this particular rule. Now, what properties are? They are the aspects of the elements you want to change. For example, color, font, font family, width, height, border. Those are the particular things we are interested in changing or in giving rules to. Once the value specify the settings you want to use for the chosen properties. So for example, you want the color of your headings to be red. You want the color with the entire body should be cream. You want all your paragraphs should be in a particular typeface. Okay, so you apply a particular value to those particular properties you want to make changes to. Okay, I have H1 here, H2 and H3. So let me just go to my CSS file. So as you see this particular CSS file, what I want to do is apply to the entire body a font family of Arial. If Arial is not found, you should go to Verdana. If Verdana is not found, you should go to what? Sans serif. And my headings H1, H2 and H3 should have a color of red, and then the paragraph should have ash. So I can then decide to change the color for my headings, okay, and then the color of the paragraph should remain ash. Let me just save this file. Let me just view it in the browser. Now this is what is happening. Just like we explained, that what we actually want to change is what we call the property, and then the value we give to that property determines the settings we want for a particular property we have what chosen to change or to edit. So I can just come back to my and then just play around it. I can give this, let me give it back the red. Come to my case here. So when I save this file now, Ctrl S, and I go back to view, I should see the changes that what I've applied to it.